The blizzard had been raging for 3 days straight when Dr. Marcus Chen finally decided to venture outside the research station. His thermal suit's environmental readings showed minus 47 degrees Celsius, with wind speeds that could knock a man flat if he wasn't careful. The howling gale that swept across the Alaskan wilderness carried with it the promise of another week trapped inside the isolated Arctic research facility. "Control, this is Chen," he spoke into his comm unit, his breath forming ice crystals inside his helmet. "Beginning exterior inspection of the geothermal sensors. Should be back within the hour. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you." "Copy that, Marcus," came the reply from Dr. Sarah Kim, his research partner. "Be careful out there. The storm's supposed to get worse before it gets better." Marcus trudged through the knee-deep snow, his advanced heating systems working overtime to maintain core body temperature.
Ow.
The research station behind him disappeared into the white void within minutes, leaving him alone with the fury of nature. He'd been studying climate patterns in the Arctic for nearly a decade, but the recent anomalous readings from their deep core sensors had him concerned. The geothermal array was located half a kilometer from the main facility. It's positioned over a series of underground hot springs that provided both power and fascinating geological data. As he approached the sensor cluster, his suit's proximity alarms began chirping softly. Something was interfering with the electromagnetic readings. "That's odd," Marcus muttered, checking his handheld scanner. The interference pattern was unlike anything in his database, is too regular to be natural, too complex to be equipment malfunction. Following the signal strength, he moved past the sensor array toward a cluster of ice-covered rocks. The interference grew stronger with each step, his equipment registering energy signatures that defied explanation. Through the swirling snow, something caught his eye, faint pulsing glow emanating from beneath a natural ice formation. Marcus activated his suit's high-powered LED array, cutting through the storm's chaos. What he saw made him stop breathing for a moment. Embedded in the ice, roughly 3 feet down, was what appeared to be a small humanoid figure. The form was too delicate to be human, too symmetrical to be natural, and it was glowing with a soft blue-white radiance that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Jesus," he whispered, his scientific mind racing. "Control, I need you to patch me through to the xenobiology department. We have a situation." "Marcus, you're breaking up," Sarah's voice crackled through the storm interference. "Did you say xenobiology?" "I found something," he said, already starting to clear snow from around the ice formation. "Something that shouldn't exist. I'm going to need the thermal extraction unit and a biocontainment field. Now." The figure in the ice was small, perhaps the size of a human child around 8 or 9 years old. But the proportions were subtly wrong. The limbs were too elegant, the features too refined. The being's skin had a faint opalescent quality that reminded Marcus of mother-of-pearl. And intricate patterns that looked almost like circuitry ran along what he could see of the arms and face. Through the ice, he could make out clothing that seemed to be made of some kind of metallic fabric, cut in styles that were both beautiful and completely alien. The being's hair appeared to be silver white, flowing around the small face like liquid mercury frozen in time. But it was the eyes that truly shocked him. Even through the distortion of ice and storm, he could see they were open large, luminous, and definitely alive. He tracked his movements with an intelligence that sent chills down his spine that had nothing to do with the Arctic cold. "She's alive," Marcus breathed, his words stolen by the wind. The being he somehow knew it was female, though he couldn't say how, blinked slowly, her gaze meeting his through the frozen barrier between them. Marcus activated his suit's emergency beacon and began working frantically to clear the ice. His thermal cutter made quick work of the outer layers, steam billowing up as ancient ice sublimated into vapor. The deeper he went, the more details he could make out. The child, for lack of a better term, was definitely not human. Her facial structure was too refined, her proportions too perfect. The bioluminescent patterns on her skin were becoming more visible as he cleared the ice, creating an intricate network that pulsed with her apparent life signs. Her clothing, now that he could see it clearly, was made of some kind of adaptive material that seemed to shift and flow even while frozen. "Control status report," came Sarah's voice, clearer now as he was in a more sheltered position. "I've found what appears to be a non-terrestrial juvenile," Marcus replied, never taking his eyes off the being in the ice. "She's alive, Sarah. Conscious and aware. The ice formation appears to be some kind of preservation system." A long pause. "Marcus, are you certain about what you're seeing? The storm can cause hallucinations?"
"I'm looking right at her," he interrupted.
"She's looking back at me. I need that extraction unit now, or we're going to lose her." The child's eyes widened as she seemed to understand his words despite the language barrier. Her small hand pressed against the ice from the inside, and Marcus found himself placing his gloved hand against the barrier in response. Through the frozen wall, he could swear he felt warmth. Marcus's extraction equipment arrived via automated drone just as the storm began to intensify again. The thermal extraction unit was designed for removing ice core samples, but he quickly reconfigured it for a more delicate operation. The being in the ice watched every movement with keen intelligence, occasionally pressing her hand against different sections of the barrier as if guiding his efforts. "Easy there, little one," Marcus murmured, working carefully around what appeared to be some kind of life support apparatus built into the ice itself. "We're going to get you out of there." The ice formation wasn't natural, that much was becoming clear. The deeper layers had a crystalline structure that suggested artificial creation, and there were what looked like microscopic filaments running through the frozen matrix. Some kind of suspended animation system, possibly designed to preserve life during extreme circumstances. As the thermal cutter worked its way through the final layers, Marcus noticed that the ambient temperature around the ice formation was actually several degrees warmer than the surrounding area. The being's bioluminescent patterns were growing brighter, responding to his presence in ways that seemed almost hopeful. "Control, I'm going to need a full medical suite standing by," Marcus said, switching to hands-on extraction as he cleared the last of the ice from around the small form. "Whatever preservation system she was in, it's failing now that I've disturbed it." The moment the last of the ice cleared away, the child took a sharp, gasping breath. Her eyes fluttered, focusing on Marcus with an expression of confusion and what might have been gratitude. She tried to speak, but only managed to sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Marcus quickly wrapped her in his emergency thermal blanket, noting that her body temperature was far too low for any terrestrial life form to survive. Yet she was not only alive, but apparently fully conscious. Her small hand gripped his arm with surprising strength, and he felt that strange warmth again, as if her touch was somehow transferring heat directly to him. "It's okay," he said softly, lifting her carefully. She weighed almost nothing, as if her bones were hollow like a bird's. "You're safe now. I'm going to take you somewhere warm." The child's luminescent patterns pulsed in what seemed like a response to his voice. She tilted her head, studying his face through his helmet's visor with an intensity that made him feel as if she was reading his very thoughts. When she reached up to touch the side of his helmet, her fingertips left small, glowing handprints. On the surface, the journey back to the research station was harrowing. The storm had intensified, and Marcus found himself fighting against wind gusts that threatened to knock him off his feet even with the child's minimal weight in his arms. But something remarkable was happening the closer he held her to his body, the warmer he felt, as if her alien physiology was somehow sharing heat with him through the layers of protective clothing.
"Marcus, your suit's readings are showing
some unusual thermal signatures." Sarah's voice crackled through his comm. "Are you okay out there?" "Better than okay," he replied, looking down at the child who was now studying the storm around them with curious eyes rather than fear. "I think she's helping keep me warm somehow." The child looked up at him when he spoke, and for a moment their eyes met. Marcus felt a jolt of something that wasn't quite physical, a sense of connection, of understanding that transcended language or species. She was afraid, yes, but she trusted him. That trust hit him like a physical weight, the responsibility of it both humbling and strengthening. "Don't worry," he told her, his voice gentle despite the howling wind. "We're almost there." The research station's emergency airlock had never looked so welcoming. Marcus stumbled through the outer door, ice crystals falling from his suit as the decontamination sequence began. The child in his arms was shivering now, her bioluminescent patterns flickering weakly. Whatever energy reserves had sustained her during her frozen sleep were clearly running low. "Sarah, clear the medical bay," Marcus called out as he stripped off his outer gear. "And contact Dr. Reyes at the Xenobiology Center. Tell her it's not a drill this time." Sarah Kim emerged from the control room, her expression shifting from concern to amazement as she saw what Marcus was carrying. The child was awake and alert, her large, luminous eyes taking in everything around her with obvious intelligence. Her silver hair had dried to reveal intricate braided patterns that seemed to incorporate thin strands of some metallic material. "You're my God, Marcus," Sarah breathed, approaching slowly. "She's beautiful." The child's head turned toward Sarah's voice, and she made that wind chime sound again, softer this time. Her bioluminescent patterns shifted from the blue-white glow to warmer hues golds and soft greens that pulsed gently under her translucent skin. "I don't think she's from Earth," Marcus said, stating the obvious as he carried her toward the medical bay. The physiological adaptations alone suggest a completely different evolutionary path. But Sarah, she's been preserved in that ice for who knows how long, and she's still just a child. The medical bay was the most advanced part of their facility, designed to handle emergencies in extreme isolation. As Marcus placed the child on the examination table, she gripped his hand tightly, her luminescent patterns flaring with what seemed like anxiety. The moment he tried to step back, she made a distressed sound and reached for him. "She doesn't want you to leave," Sarah observed, running preliminary scans with handheld instruments. "Her vital signs are stabilizing, but they're unlike anything in our databases. Heart rate is extremely slow, but regular. Body temperature is still dangerously low by human standards, but rising gradually." Marcus sat beside the examination table, allowing the child to maintain contact with his hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong, and he could feel that strange warmth transfer continuing. "I think she's been alone for a very long time," he said quietly. "Maybe longer than we can imagine." The child's eyes moved between Marcus and Sarah, clearly trying to understand their conversation. When Sarah moved closer with a scanner, the child's patterns shifted to cooler blues again, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she looked to Marcus as if seeking reassurance. "It's okay," Marcus told her, his voice gentle. "She's a friend. We're both friends." As if she understood, the child relaxed slightly, though she kept her grip on Marcus's hand. Sarah completed her initial scans, her expression growing more amazed with each reading. "Marcus, her cellular structure is unlike anything we've ever seen. The bioluminescence appears to be integral to her physiology, but functional in these patterns." Sarah paused, studying the readouts. "They're changing in response to external stimuli." "To you specifically, what do you mean? Watch." Sarah moved away from the table, and immediately the child's patterns dimmed slightly, shifting toward cooler colors. When she returned, they warmed again. She's responding to proximity, to emotional states, maybe even to intentions. It's as if she can read us on some level we don't understand. The child made her chiming sound again, softer now, almost musical. Her free hand reached toward Sarah, who carefully extended her own hand in response. The moment their fingers touched, Sarah gasped. "She's warm," Sarah said in wonder. "Not just physically warm, I can feel. Contentment. Gratitude. It's like she's sharing emotions directly." Marcus nodded, understanding. "I felt it too, from the moment I found her. There's something about human contact that she needs that helps her somehow." The child looked between them, her luminescent patterns now cycling through warmer hues, in complex, beautiful patterns. She was trying to communicate, Marcus realized, using the only language she had available: light, color, and touch. "To contact the authorities," Sarah said reluctantly. "The scientific community, maybe the government. This is ... This is first contact. Marcus." Everything changes now. But as she spoke, the child's patterns immediately shifted to distressed reds and harsh whites. She gripped Marcus's hand tighter, making urgent chiming sounds that clearly indicated fear. "She understands more than we think," Marcus said, troubled. "And she's afraid of what happens if too many people know about her." Sarah looked at the child's frightened expression and sighed. "You can't keep her hidden forever. She needs specialized care, resources we don't have here." The child's pattern shifted again, this time to what looked almost like questioning yellows. "And greens," she pointed to herself, then to Marcus, then made a gesture that seemed to encompass the entire station. Her meaning was clear even without words. She wanted to stay here, with them. One step at a time, Marcus decided. First we make sure she's healthy and safe, and we figure out what comes next. But Sarah, she's not a specimen to be studied. She's a child who's been alone for God knows how long. Whatever we do it with her well-being as the priority. The child's patterns brightened to warm golds and soft blues, and she made a sound that was unmistakably pleased. She had understood, Marcus realized. Not just the words, but the intent behind them, as night fell over the Arctic Research Station. Marcus found himself sitting beside the child's bed in the medical bay. She had refused to sleep unless he stayed nearby, her bioluminescent patterns. Growing agitated whenever he tried to leave, Sarah had finally convinced him to rest in the chair beside her bed, where the child could maintain visual contact. Now, watching the gentle pulse of light under her skin as she finally slept, Marcus marveled at the impossibility of the situation. 12 hours ago, he had been a simple climate researcher, studying ice formations. Now he was the guardian of what was possibly the most important discovery in human history. The child stirred in her sleep, making soft, chiming sounds that seemed almost like dreaming. Her hand reached out instinctively, and Marcus took it gently. Noting how her patterns immediately settled into peaceful blues and greens at the contact. "What are you?" he whispered into the quiet medical bay. "Where did you come from? And why? Do you need us so much?" As if responding to his questions, the child's patterns shifted briefly to show complex configurations that looked almost like star maps before settling back into the rhythm of sleep. Marcus made a mental note to document the pattern. It might be important later. Through the medical bay's small window, he could see the aurora borealis dancing across the sky, its green and blue lights strangely similar to the patterns that played across the child's skin. For a moment, he wondered if there was a connection. Perhaps she had come from somewhere among those distant stars. The child's grip on his hand tightened slightly. Marcus settled back in his chair, resigned to spending the night as her anchor in this strange new world. Tomorrow would bring questions, decisions, probably complications he couldn't even imagine yet. But tonight, it was enough to know that she was safe, warm, and no longer alone in the frozen darkness where he had found her. Marcus woke to the sound of soft, melodic humming that seemed to resonate through his bones. The alien child was awake, sitting cross-legged on her bed with her eyes closed, her bioluminescent patterns flowing in complex spirals that matched the rhythm of her voice. The medical bay was filled with a warm golden light that pulsed gently. With each note, "Good morning," Marcus said softly, not wanting to startle her. Her eyes opened immediately, focusing on him with an expression of pure joy. Her patterns shifted to brilliant golds and warm blues as she reached toward him, her small hands moving in gestures that seemed almost like sign language. "I wish I could understand you," Marcus said, taking her hands in his. The moment their skin made contact, he felt that familiar warmth. But this time it was accompanied by something else, flashes of images, emotions that weren't his own. Snow, darkness, cold beyond imagining, fear, then warmth, safety, gratitude, so profound it brought tears to his eyes. Marcus jerked back, startled. "Did you just—" The child tilted her head, her patterns shifting to curious greens. She reached for him again, more deliberately this time. And when their hands touched, Marcus felt it clearly. She was sharing her memories with him. "Sarah," Marcus called out, his voice tight with excitement. "Sarah, you need to see this."
Doctor
Kim appeared in the doorway moments later, carrying a steaming cup of coffee and looking like she'd gotten about as much sleep as Marcus had. "What's wrong? Is she okay?" "She's more than okay," Marcus said, never taking his eyes off the child. "She's telepathic. or empathic. Something she just shared her memories with me. Sarah moved closer, her scientific skepticism warring with the evidence of her own eyes. The child's patterns were unlike anything they'd seen the night before, more complex, more purposeful. "Show me," Sarah said. The child looked between them, then deliberately reached for Sarah's hand. The moment contact was made, Sarah's eyes widened in shock. "I can feel her," Sarah whispered, wonder in her voice. She's showing me the storm, how alone she was. But also something else, there are others like her." "Were others?" The child's patterns shifted to somber purples and deep blues. Through their shared connection, both humans felt a profound sadness, the weight of loss and isolation that was almost overwhelming. "She's the last one," Marcus said quietly, understanding flooding through him. "Whatever happened to her people, she survived it, alone." The child made her chiming sound, but softer now, almost mournful. Her patterns continued to pulse in slower, sadder rhythms as she shared fragments of memory glimpses of others with similar bioluminescent patterns. Beautiful crystalline structures. That might have been cities, and then darkness, cold, and terrible silence. "How long were you alone?" Sarah asked gently. The child's response came not in words, but in feeling time, stretching endlessly. Cycles of sleep and waking, seasons passing like brief moments in an eternity of waiting. The ice had preserved her, but consciousness had remained. Aware and hoping for rescue that never came. "Until now," Marcus said, squeezing her small hand gently. "You're not alone anymore." The child's patterns exploded into brilliant golds and warm whites. Her joy so pure and intense that both humans found themselves smiling despite the weight of her tragic history. Over the following days, Marcus and Sarah worked to establish a routine with their unexpected guest. They discovered that she needed very little food. Her metabolism seemed designed for efficiency, but she required almost constant physical contact with at least one of them. If left alone for more than a few minutes, her patterns would dim and she would become listless and cold. "It's not just emotional," Sarah observed on the third day, reviewing her readings. "Her body temperature drops measurably when she's isolated. But with human contact, especially yours, Marcus, she maintains perfect homeostasis." Marcus was sitting. With the child, they had started calling her Aria, after the musical quality of her voice, helping her experiment with their communication system. She had quickly learned to modulate her bioluminescent patterns to convey specific meanings. Warm colors for positive emotions, cool colors for negative ones, and increasingly complex combinations for more nuanced thoughts. "Watch this," Marcus said to Sarah. He looked at Aria and thought about the aurora borealis they'd seen the previous night. Immediately, her patterns shifted to mirror the dancing lights he'd visualized, greens and blues, swirling in organic waves across her skin. "She's reading your thoughts," Sarah breathed. "Not just emotions, actual mental images." Aria reached for Sarah's hand and shared the same aurora pattern, but this time it was accompanied by a feeling of homesickness so profound that Sarah had to steady herself against the wall. "It reminds her of home," Sarah whispered.
At Marcus.
"Those patterns there. Not just communication. They're how her people saw the universe. Everything connected. Everything sharing light and warmth." The revelation came with another shared memory, vast networks of Aria's people linked together across impossible distances, their bioluminescent patterns synchronized in planet-spanning symphonies of light and meaning. A civilization based not on individual achievement but on collective harmony, where isolation was not just loneliness, but a kind of death. "That's why she needs us," Marcus realized. Her species evolved as a collective consciousness. She's literally dying without connection to others. Aria's patterns pulsed with confirmation, but also with something new hope. Through their bond, she showed them her growing understanding of human nature. Her amazement at their capacity for individual thought, combined with emotional connection. They were different from her people, but they could provide what she needed to survive. "The question is," Sarah said quietly, "what do we do with this knowledge? We can't keep her here forever, Marcus. She needs proper care, resources we don't have. as if summoned by their conversation. The satellite communication system crackled to life. Dr. Alina Reyes' voice came through clearly from the Xenobiology Center. Over 1,000 miles away. Marcus, Sarah, I've been monitoring your reports. I'm assembling a team to come to your location. We need to examine this discovery properly. Aria's patterns immediately shifted to alarmed reds and whites. She gripped Marcus's hand tightly, her distress flooding through their mental connection. She had understood every word, and the prospect of strangers, of being studied like a specimen, terrified her. Dr. Reyes, Marcus said carefully, I need to stress that we're dealing with a sentient child here, not just a biological curiosity. She's been traumatized, and she's formed attachments. Any examination would need to be conducted with extreme sensitivity. Of course, Marcus, we're scientists, not monsters. But you must understand the significance of what you've found. This could change everything we know about life in the universe. After the communication ended, Aria's patterns remained agitated. Through their connection, Marcus felt her fear not of pain or death, but of being alone again, of being separated from the only beings who had shown her kindness in eons of solitude. We won't let that happen, Marcus promised her, though he wasn't sure how he could keep such a promise. Whatever comes next, we'll make sure you're safe. That night, as the aurora danced across the Arctic sky once again, Aria showed Marcus something that changed everything. Taking his hand in both of hers, she shared a memory that wasn't from her past, but from her presenta vision of herself. Grown and healthy, her patterns intertwined with similar lights emanating from human beings. You're showing me the future, Marcus said in wonder. A future where humans and your people, Aria's patterns, pulsed with correction. Not her people, they were gone, but humans. Humans could learn to share light, to connect as her people had. The potential was there, dormant in human physiology, waiting to be awakened by the right catalyst. You're not just the last of your kind, Marcus realized. You're the first of something new. A bridge between species that could teach us to be more than we are. Aria's response was a cascade of golden light that filled the medical bay with warmth. She showed him more visions or search facilities where humans and beings like her worked. Together, cities that pulsed with bioluminescent communication networks. Starships that traveled through space guided by collective consciousness rather than artificial intelligence. But all of it hinged on one crucial factor: trust. The bond that had formed between Aria and the two researchers was not just emotional, but evolutionary, the first step in humanity's development towards something greater. Sarah needs to see this, Marcus said. Aria nodded, her patterns shifting. To include Sarah in the vision? When Dr. Kim touched Aria's other hand, she gasped as the same future visions flooded her consciousness. My God, Sarah whispered. She's not just surviving by connecting with us, she's changing us. I can feel it. Something in my neural chemistry is different. The way I process information, the way I understand the world around me. Marcus nodded. He had felt it too, a subtle shift in perception that had been growing stronger each day. Colors seemed more vivid, emotions more nuanced, and his understanding of complex systems had improved dramatically. That's why her people came here, Sarah continued, the revelation dawning on her. Not as refugees, but as a gift. They knew they were dying, so they sent her to find a species that could carry on their legacy. Aria's patterns confirmed their understanding, but also conveyed a sense of urgency. The process of integration was delicate, requiring careful nurturing and protection. If she were subjected to aggressive study or separated from those she had bonded with, the opportunity could be lost forever. The next morning brought unwelcome news. Dr. Reyes called again, this time with official backing from multiple government agencies. A joint scientific and military team was being assembled to secure and study the extraterrestrial asset. They're treating her like a weapon, Marcus said after the call ended, his anger coloring the words. Aria, who had been listening despite the adult's attempt to shield her from the conversation, showed them her response through her patterns, not fear this time, but determination. She had survived eons of isolation. She would not let fear of human politics destroy the bridge she was trying to build. Through their mental connection, she shared a plan. It was audacious, probably impossible, but it was their only hope of protecting the future she had shown them. "Want us to leave?" Marcus said, understanding flooding through him. "To take you somewhere they can't find us?" Arya's patterns pulsed with confirmation, but also with love and gratitude, so profound it brought tears to both humans' eyes. She wasn't asking them to abandon their lives for her. She was offering them a chance to be part of something unprecedented. "In human history, where would we go?" Sarah asked practically. "They'll track us anywhere we run." Arya's response was a memory not her own, but somehow shared with her images of a remote location. A place where the aurora was strongest, where the barriers between consciousness and reality were thinnest. A place where her ship had crashed long ago, where technology from her people still waited, hidden beneath the ice. "Antarctica," Marcus breathed, recognizing the geographical markers in her vision. "There's something there, something your people left behind." Arya nodded, her patterns showing them more a facility built into the ice itself, powered by geothermal energy and protected by technology that could hide them from any search. But more than that, it was a place where the transformation she had begun in them could be completed safely. "This is insane," Sarah said, but her voice held excitement rather than fear. "We'd be fugitives. Our careers, our lives, everything would be over." "No," Marcus said quietly, feeling Arya's certainty flow through their connection. "Everything would be beginning." As if to emphasize his point, Arya took both their hands and shared one final vision, the three of them standing together in a crystalline chamber, their bodies surrounded by the same bioluminescent patterns that decorated her skin. But in this future vision, they were not alone. Other humans were there, learning, growing, evolving into something more beautiful and connected than their species had ever been. The choice was theirs. But Arya's message was clear. The future of both species depended on the trust and courage of three individuals standing in an Arctic research station. Watching the lights of an approaching helicopter grow larger on the horizon, Marcus looked at Sarah, then at Arya, feeling the weight of the moment settle around them like destiny itself. "How long do we have?" he asked. Arya's patterns shifted. To show urgency, hours at most before the official team arrived. If they were going to act, it had to be now. "Then we go," Marcus decided, surprised by the certainty in his own voice. "We take her home." The stolen research helicopter cut through, Antarctic winds that would have grounded any civilian aircraft. Marcus gripped the controls with white knuckles, his enhanced spatial awareness a gift from his deepening bond with Ariel. Him to navigate through conditions that should have been impossible. In the passenger seat, Sarah monitored their pursuers while Arya sat between them, her patterns pulsing in rhythm with the aircraft's navigation systems. "3 helicopters, closing fast," Sarah reported, checking the radar display. "Military configuration, ETA, 12 minutes. Arya shared her confidence. The facility was close, now so close that her patterns were beginning to resonate with something vast and powerful hidden beneath the ice. The Aurora Australis danced overhead with unusual intensity, as if responding to her presence. There, Arya's voice came through their connection, not as sound, but as pure understanding. She pointed toward what appeared to be an empty expanse of ice, but through her enhanced perception, Marcus could see the truth geometric patterns hidden beneath centuries of accumulated snow, the subtle warmth signatures of a structure that had been waiting for her return. Marcus brought the helicopter down in a controlled crash landing, the rotors churning up clouds of ice crystals as they settled onto the frozen surface.
The pursuing?
Aircraft would be here soon, but Arya was already moving with purpose. Her small hand pressed against what looked like solid ice. The response was immediate and breathtaking. Lines of bioluminescent energy began tracing across the surface, spreading outward from her touch in intricate patterns that transformed the landscape into a living mandala of light. The ice began to part, not melting, but simply moving aside as if it were liquid rather than solid. "Welcome home," Marcus whispered, helping Arya down from the helicopter as stairs of crystalline material formed beneath their feet. The facility that revealed itself defied human understanding of architecture, The walls seemed to be grown, rather than built, their surfaces incorporating the same bioluminescent technology that graced Arya's skin. But this was more than mere lighting. The entire structure pulsed with consciousness, responding to their presence with welcoming warmth. "It's alive," Sarah breathed, her hand trailing along a wall that shifted color at her touch. "The entire complex is a living organism." Arya's patterns brightened with joy as she led them deeper into the facility. Through their connection, she shared the truth. Her people hadn't built this place so much as cultivated it, growing it from crystalline seeds that could adapt to any environment. It was part spaceship, part biological entity, and part repository of everything her civilization had learned about the universe. "The others are coming," Marcus said, hearing the distinctive sound of military helicopters approaching overhead. Arya's response was a pulse of calm determination. Let them come. They would understand soon enough. The central chamber took Marcus's breath away. The ceiling stretched impossibly high, disappearing into aurora-like displays of light that seemed to extend beyond the physical boundaries of the structure. In the center, a pool of what looked like liquid starlight reflected the dancing patterns above. "The heart chamber," Arya's mental voice explained. "Where consciousness joins with consciousness, where separate becomes one," Dr. Alina Ray's voice echoed from speakers that materialized from the living walls. "Dr. Chen, Dr. Kim, we know you're in there. Come out with the asset, and no one needs to be hurt." "Asset," Sarah muttered, her anger flaring. "She's a child, not a weapon." Arya moved to the edge of the luminous pool, her patterns shifting to complex configurations that Marcus had never seen before. Through their bond, he felt her preparing for something momentous, something that would change not just their lives, but the trajectory of human evolution itself. "Last chance, people," came another voice from outside military, authoritative. "We're prepared to breach the facility." Marcus looked at Arya, then at Sarah. The decision hung between them like destiny itself. "Together?" he asked. Arya's response was to take both their hands and step forward into the pool of light. The sensation was unlike anything in human experience. Marcus felt his consciousness expanding, his individual thoughts merging with Arya's alien awareness and Sarah's scientific precision. But instead of losing himself, he became more and more aware, more connected, more alive than he had ever imagined possible. Through Arya's shared memory, they experienced the final moments of her civilization. Not destroyed by war or disaster, but choosing transformation, uploading their collective consciousness into seed facilities like this one, scattered across the galaxy in hopes of finding compatible species to carry on their legacy. You weren't refugees. Sarah's realization rippled through their merged awareness. You were gardeners, planting seeds of consciousness wherever life might bloom. Arya's joy at their understanding was profound. Humanity had been chosen not for what they were, but for what they could become. The capacity for individual thought combined with emotional connection, the ability to maintain personal identity while joining collective consciousness, traits that made humans perfect inheritors of her people's greatest gift. The transformation was rapid but not painful. Marcus watched in wonder as bioluminescent patterns began to trace themselves across his skin, not replacing his humanity but enhancing it. Through his enhanced perception, he could feel Sarah's thoughts, Arya's memories, and something vast and wonderful beyond the sleeping consciousness of Arya's people, preserved in facilities like this one across countless worlds. Outside, the military team had breached the facility's outer defenses, but as they entered the central chamber, they stopped in amazement. The three figures in the pool of light were no longer entirely human, but they hadn't become alien either. They had become something new, a bridge between species that radiated peace and understanding so profound that weapons became meaningless. "Don't be afraid," Marcus said, his voice carrying harmonics that resonated in frequencies beyond human hearing. The bioluminescent patterns on his skin pulsed in rhythm with Arya's, while Sarah's displayed the unique configurations of a human mind touched by cosmic awareness. Dr. Rhea stepped forward, her scientific training warring with the evidence of her senses. "What have you done? What have you become?" "What we were always meant to be," Sarah replied, her consciousness touching Rhea's mind gently, sharing visions of the future that awaited humanity. The next step in our evolution? Through their enhanced awareness, the three bonded beings could feel the fear and wonder of the soldiers and scientists who had come to capture them. But fear was fading, replaced by curiosity and an inexplicable sense of rightness. The transformation they had undergone was calling to something deep in human DNA, an ancient potential waiting to be awakened. Your people, Dr. Reyes said to Arya, her voice filled with wonder. Where are they now? Daria's patterns shifted to show vast networks of consciousness spread across the galaxy, not dead, sleeping, waiting for the right moment to reawaken. Each species that accepted their gift became part of that network, adding their unique perspective to a collective understanding that spanned civilizations. They're everywhere, Marcus said, his enhanced perception showing him the truth. The quantum foam between stars and the aurora that dances around every world in the very fabric of space-time itself, waiting for enough species to join them that the network can fully activate. And Earth, Dr. Reyes asked. Is the tipping point? Sarah finished. Humanity's addition to the network will complete something that began millions of years ago, a galactic consciousness capable of transcending physical limitations. The military commander, Colonel Matthews, lowered his weapon completely. Are you saying we're not human anymore? More human than before, Arya spoke aloud for the first time, her voice carrying the musical quality they had grown to love. Add to what you are, not replace it. Your courage, your creativity, your capacity for love, these become part of something greater. Marcus stepped out of the pool, water that was not water streaming from his skin in patterns of living light. The choice is yours, he said to the assembled team. All of yours. We can't force this transformation, and we won't. But we can offer it. Dr. Reyes was the first to step forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. What happens to us? To our families? Our world? They join us if they choose, Sarah said, her patterns pulsing with gentle invitation. One by one, as they're ready. The transformation spreads through connection, through touch, through the simple act of choosing trust over fear. The process was remarkably gentle. As each member of the team made contact with the transformed humans, they felt the same expansion of consciousness, the same enhancement of their essential humanity. Within hours, the entire facility hummed with the collective awareness of dozens of individuals who remained distinctly themselves while sharing in something infinitely larger, Colonel Matthews. His own patterns now displaying the disciplined structure of a military mind enhanced by cosmic perspective, contacted his superiors. The conversation was brief, and to those listening through enhanced awareness, almost amusing in its predictability. Yes, sir, the situation is under control, he reported. The asset is secure. No, sir, there's no danger to the team. In fact, I think you'll want to see this for yourself. Over the following days, the Antarctic facility became a pilgrimage site. World leaders, scientists, philosophers, and ordinary citizens made the journey to experience the transformation for themselves. Not all chose to accept it. The enhancement required a conscious decision, a willingness to trust in something beyond individual understanding. But those who did found themselves part of something unprecedented in human history. The global communication network began carrying new frequencies as the transformed humans unconsciously synchronized their thoughts across continents. Scientific breakthroughs accelerated as enhanced minds collaborated in ways previously impossible. Art and music evolved to incorporate the bioluminescent language of pure emotion and meaning. Marcus, now serving as one of the primary liaisons between transformed and baseline humanity, stood in the heart chamber watching the latest group of visitors experience their first contact with expanded consciousness. Arya, grown taller but still radiating the same gentle wisdom that had characterized her as a child, worked with each newcomer to ease their transition. Any regrets? Sarah asked, joining him at the edge of the luminous pool. Her patterns had evolved over the months to display complex algorithms of biological understanding that had revolutionized medicine and genetics. Only that it took so long, Marcus replied, feeling the vast network of consciousness that now spanned not just Earth, but was beginning to reach toward the stars where other transformed species waited. Though I suppose some things can't be rushed. Through their connection to the galactic network, they felt the stirring of ancient minds. Civilizations that had been waiting eons for this moment. The transformation of humanity had provided the final piece needed to reawaken the collective consciousness of dozens of species, creating a network of understanding that spanned the galaxy. The real journey is just beginning, Arya said, her young face bearing wisdom accumulated over geological ages. Through their shared awareness, she showed them visions of the future humans and other transformed species working together to heal damaged worlds, to guide younger civilizations toward their own transcendence, to explore the deepest mysteries of existence itself. Marcus reached out to touch the pool's surface, feeling the vast harmony of consciousness that now connected billions of minds across impossible distances. In that light, he saw reflections of himself, not the simple climate researcher he had been, but the bridge builder he had become. The man who had found a frozen child in the Arctic snow and, through simple human warmth and compassion, had helped birth a new age for all sentient life. "Thank you," he whispered to Arya, his gratitude echoing through the network to touch minds on distant worlds. Her response came not in words, but in the universal language of light and love that had become humanity's gift to the cosmos, a pattern of such pure joy and gratitude that it created its own aurora in the chamber's crystalline ceiling. Outside, the Antarctic night was alive with bioluminescent displays as transformed. Humans across the world unconsciously synchronized their patterns. In celebration of another successful joining, Earth itself seemed to pulse with new awareness, its magnetic field carrying the harmonic frequencies of a species that had learned to sing in harmony with the stars. The age of isolation was over. The age of connection had begun, and in a small research station in the Arctic where it all started, instruments recorded an anomaly that no baseline human could explain: the aurora borealis, dancing in patterns that matched exactly the heartbeat of a transformed civilization learning to speak with the voice of the universe itself. The last entry in Dr. Marcus Chen's research log read simply, "Day 847 since first contact. The child I found in the ice wasn't lost at all. Was exactly where she needed to be, waiting for someone who would choose warmth over fear, connection over isolation." Today, humanity took its first steps toward the stars. The future has never looked brighter. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. This one hit the mark. You won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.